It's a little rough. Usually we're still a little bit sore later on into the week, but you kind of have to ignore your aches and pains and force yourself to go through your preparations about twice as fast as you normally would, and then hope that you can be ready in time to go.
Did you come in early to get accustomed to Texas Stadium?
No, actually, we really didn't come in early. Normally, for a Sunday game, we travel on Friday. So for a Thursday game, we end up traveling on Tuesday. And it's pretty much the same kind of road trip that we would normally experience.
Just a couple of things before you board the bus. What are your thoughts on the stadium itself?
I think it's a great place to watch the game being played. I'm not so sure it's a great place to play. I'm not terribly happy with the turf. Maybe I'll feel differently after we play a game on it, but it seems awfully hard, and it seems like the footing is a little difficult. One thing about the artificial turf, I think it might shorten some careers if you fall as hard on it as it feels under your feet.
And then what does Roger Staubach as a scrambling quarterback do to you as a defensive man?
Well, we talk of it in terms of putting on our track shoes, because it means we're going to have to do a lot of running, and he does create some very special problems for you with his fine speed and his ability to carry that ball out of there. And I might say, too, that we were quite impressed with his throwing ability. He seems to be throwing the ball very well. But, the Cowboys are a tough team, and it's going to be should be a mighty fine football game.
Gene, I guess you're happy to be with the Rams as opposed to the Saints, are you not?
Yes, I am. I really am.
You had a great game against San Francisco. Did the passes just happen to come your way? What was the situation behind those 3 interceptions?
Well, one of them I would like to say I was in the right position, and 2 of them I like to say I was in the right place at the right time.
Do you think it'll happen tomorrow against the Cowboys?
Well, I would like for it to, but I won't count on it.
What type of a game do you think it'll be?
Well, as you know, we both have had short weeks coming into the game, but I think, as you know, LA and Dallas have always put forth a good game, and I think it's going to be a hard-hitting, emotional game tomorrow.
Will you switch, or will you be at one corner the entire game?
I'll be at the right corner the whole entire game.
So since Haynes and Allworth will move around, you'll be on each of them at various times, will you not?
Right, I'll cover both of them.
Will you have any help?
Well, as of now, I don't know. We haven't made up a definite game plan as to how we're going to do it, but basically I will get a chance to cover.
Are you looking forward to playing against those fellas?
Yes, I am. I played against Hayes in the preseason, and he scored a touchdown against me, and I didn't like that too much.
I don't think that my political feelings are much different than what the greater majority of the district as a whole. I take each individual issue as it comes. I would be moderate on some, liberal on some, conservative on some. I will say, yes, I have represented some long hairs, and I feel that every person is entitled to fair and just representation in the courts, and particularly when they're not receiving fair treatment by public authorities at times. I will say further that I'm not particularly compatible to many of the long hairs also, because my political feelings are not near as liberal as what they would like for them to be.
You said that you worked for Blanton and Braecklein both, and that they need to be out. Why? Do you know of wrongdoing that they've done? Or
well, let's put it this way. They were both right-hand men of Gus Mutscher down in Austin. And if I'm not mistaken, Bill Braecklein seconded the nomination for Gus Mutscher down there in Austin. And I was up here in Dallas County, and I knew some of the wrongdoing that's going on, and they knew what was going on, and being so close in, and they continue to support Mutscher, not only in the regular session of the legislature, but through the special session.
I would say there's a desperate need, it seems to me, that the Republican Party, now in power, and the Democratic Party, but neither of them has the ability to solve the basic problems of the country. I think that the country has never been in more trouble. The war goes on, even though the American deaths have declined. The United States is in more trouble with the rest of the world through Nixon's economic policy. Unemployment continues. Inflation is going to continue. pollution continues. Neither party seems capable of making appreciable inroads on these problems. I think it's really a desperate question whether we can form another party soon enough to keep the country really from sliding into chaos.
Therefore, as you know, when the President's wage and price freeze was lifted at midnight on November the 13th, based on your action on August the 28th and September the 8th, indeed the 71-72 scale was implemented and shall be effective for all of our teaching personnel. We're asking in this action that you ratify this so that there shall be no question about it, so that we can proceed to move in this direction.
So it's to pay as much as possible.
Oh, yes, Dr. And salary simply provided an extension of our 2-year contract.
The language of the resolution states that if the
take action as is presented here.
Motion by Mrs. Bromberg, seconded by Mr. Smith.
You're saying this is strictly a legal...
Well, I tell you, it's been a short week, and we're playing in under strange circumstances. But I think we'll be ready because we're on top and they're on top, so we have to, and that's all that counts as long as you're right mentally.
When you play a team as defensively minded as Dallas, what sort of a game plan do you take into it?
Well, when you're this far along in the season and every game counts on your schedule, you go into the ball game with the idea of trying not to make a lot of mistakes, especially against a sound defensive team such as Dallas, because you realize too that you have a strong defense, and if there's any way possible that you can win, regardless of whether it's 3-0 or 21-0, this is the kind of game plan that you try to go out with.
And you wouldn't be a bit surprised to go into the fourth quarter to see it an extremely close ball game then?
Well, I tell you, I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see the game end up in a tie, because a tie actually wouldn't hurt either team.
Who do you respect the most in the Dallas front four?
I've always known Bob Lilly and respected him a great deal, but they have 4 real fine players there. They have George Andre, who's just as good as Bob, and then Pugh and Cole. They're doing a real fine job. They're playing together.
Dave, has this your rookie year been anything like you had expected it?
Not really. At first, of course, when I was drafted, I never expected to be playing in my rookie year. The Rams had a lot of fine secondary men, Richie Pettibone and fellows like that at the position I was playing. Eddie Metter, who had retired. I didn't expect to be playing, and that's the biggest difference. You know, now I'm playing now and playing regularly, and that's been a real thrill for me.
Specifically, what will be your duties tomorrow?
Well, my duty, as it has been all year, is to support as quick as possible on the run, but spend most of my time working on protecting against the pass. And Dallas does a very fine job of doing that with the fine core receivers they have in Allworth and Haynes and Truax and the fellows like that.
Does a scrambling quarterback put you a little bit on edge, since you don't know whether the pass or perhaps the run from the apparent pass will develop?
Well, it doesn't really put me on edge, because my job is, if it's a scrambling quarterback, my job is still to cover the pass. It's hard on our linebackers, who have to decide whether they want to force on the run or get back and cover for the pass, and that's what a scrambling quarterback does. And we faced some fine scrambling quarterbacks this year. I know Landry with Detroit is a fine scrambler too, and Staubach is very similar to him.
Don't know anything about that rumor, but I tell you, it sounds nice, doesn't it? $29,500 a year. I tell you what I think we ought to do. I think we ought to search the country for a man worthy of $29,500 a year and bring him here and ask him to lead this war on poverty for us. Ask him to lead it in a manner by which we can end this war on poverty in a few years.
You don't think you're worthy?
Oh, I think I'm worthy. I'm not quite interested right now.
Are you and your family still receiving threats?
I am, and don't want to talk too much about that. My wife is present. It don't mean anything. Doesn't mean a thing to me.
Who's doing it?
Extremists, black, white, and brown. But doesn't mean a thing. They can't bother me. I'm a former athlete, tough as I want to be, and they don't scare me. And I'm glad you asked me that so I can send out that warning. They don't scare me.
Is this because of your stand on busing?
Because of my stand on busing. And my stand on busing is don't come in my home and take my child away from me at January 10th and tell my son that he's going to have to go to a different high school each year.
I think our trip has demonstrated that they're doing everything within their power, and in fact, I was quite impressed that they're going way beyond what I would consider normal precaution in protecting the environment. I was just really impressed by the entire program.
Do you see the canal as creating ecology problems, as some ecologists have said it will?
I do not. I think instead of creating it, I think it's going to help all down the Trinity for parks and recreation and for pollution of the water, and I just think it's a great project, and I'm certainly in favor of it 100%.
The city government's position is that we're not opposed to having a police department. It's a matter of simple economics. How do we raise this much money?
Last night you were presented a petition with 500 and something signatures on it. What is your action on the petition?
We're working on gathering information of what it will take. The council wishes to gather their own information to check against what we did receive last night. And then we have an appointment with the sheriff's office Monday in which we intend to go down and talk to them about our problem.
I think both. I'm a professional, and money is the object of professional tennis. I have great pride in playing as well as I can. I find that it's great to see good tennis, and the chance of playing good tennis on good courts is an important part of professional tennis too.
We have two fine guards back, Larry Dalzell and Bobby Rollins. Then you may remember we played the 4 or 5 kids inside last year, and all those boys are back. They started at various times, each of these boys did. And right now we're having a real battle for those inside positions.
And who will be your outstanding sophomores?
Well, of course, we think we've got 2 or 3 outstanding boys coming up. Zach Thiel's doing a fine job, and I'm sure will play a lot. Rick Billick is another outside boy, is doing a fine job, and we feel like that we're in good shape at our guard positions with those 2 and our 2 senior lettermen. Then John Tazinski inside, we feel like is going to make a good contribution to our program.
Because you have so many returners and some good sophomores, then will the Mustangs play basically the same type of game that they did last year?
Well, Jerry, we feel like we're going to have more depth at this time. And because of this depth, we may try to press a little more, maybe try to run a little more, and but basically we'll be the same.
This means then that you'll have more players logging more time than you have in the past.
Yes, we feel like that we have more players that are capable of playing, and therefore I think we'll probably, in these early ball games anyway, trying to find out if they can play, we'll be playing 8 or 10 boys in most ball games.
The program will include screening masses to discover the cases of disease and carriers. Number 2, follow-up and counseling. Number 3, establishment of a registry. Number 4, comprehensive care, including surveillance of the patients, reduction of morbidity in the patients, hospital care for the patients, and clinical investigation. The Sickle Cell Anemia Association of Texas will conduct a fundraising drive in Fort Worth, Dallas, and Grand Prairie on Saturday, December 18, 1971, in order to begin funding this effort.
In the hallowed tradition of our fathers in this great nation, then let us express thanksgiving to Almighty God. In our varied observances, let us remind one another of our common blessings and share our individual joys, thus multiplying them to the enrichment of our own satisfaction. In our places of commerce and industry, in our civic institutions, in our schools, in our places of healing and refuge, in our churches and synagogues, and certainly in our homes, let generosity and kindness complement the humility and sincerity of a grateful populace. In so doing, we shall be a stronger community and a happier people.
The Dallas salary schedule was adopted before the freeze was announced. The salary program was adopted and funds were approved 2 years ago by the state legislature. Our teachers were employed in May and accepted their assignments in May, long before the freeze went into effect. It's for this reason that I'm requesting that this board authorize the administration to do whatever is necessary to appeal the decision to make it possible for our employees to receive retroactive pay.